Guys, welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 18 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho and I am delighted to be back live streaming ahead of tonight's deadline, which is 6:15 p.m. UK time. So we have just over an hour to go. So make sure if you are in this live stream, you are getting your teams just to the side, locked in advance, just in case we don't have the site crash like it did last week. But hopefully this live stream could just help you out with any last minute decisions that you have. So first and foremost, let me know if you are tuned into the live stream in the chat. I can already see EFG, that's the username. I'm not too sure exactly what the first name is. And Luke Grayson in the chat as well, asking if the stream is starting. Hopefully you can hear me okay in the chat, fingers crossed. But just to cover off what we're doing in this live stream, I'm going to be showing my team reveal for Game Week 18. Spoiler alert, I do have Reece James and there is a chance I may be doing something with him. I will discuss with it. Going to be discussing Reece James replacements in general. I really think that will help some of you guys out. We're also going to be looking, as usual, at the predicted points based on Fantasy Football Fix's algorithm. So hopefully that will help some of you out if you're looking at potential transfers outside of the Reece James one. So I can see Cheeks in the chat as always. Hope you're doing well. And again, hope you guys had a good Christmas. I'm conscious that I'm doing this after, of course, the Game Week 17 deadline, which was after Christmas. I can't remember. But anyway, hope you guys had a good Christmas for those that are tuning in on here. Khalid, hope you're doing well. Padri, hope you're doing well. Don't know how you've done that font as well. That's awesome. Rio, hope you're doing well. It's good to see some regulars in here as well as some new people as well. Isaac asking the question, should I sell Darwin and Andreas and replace them with Martinelli and Martial? Should I sell Darwin and Andreas and replace them with Martinelli and Martial? No. I think Darwin's numbers that he posted in Game Week 17 are brilliant. Just to give you an update on Darwin Núñez in that fixture, because it was absolute roller coaster of a week. Just to give you a bit of an idea on what we were dealing with Darwin Núñez. So, Darwin posted an XG of 1.51, which is the best of any forward in that game week. Has 6 shots, 4 of those on target. Look, very, very frustrated as an FPL option, but do I think he could deliver going forward? Absolutely. And because of that, I think Darwin Núñez is absolutely a hold going forward. Can you say Shaw or Gabriel to start? I think you have to go for Luke Shaw if you have brought him in. I think it's a good fixture. The one thing I would say is the ownership in Arsenal defence I am anticipating to be a lot higher than it was last game week because of a lot of people's hands being forced because of the Reece James situation. So just be cautious. If Arsenal were to keep a clean sheet and you don't have any Arsenal coverage, that could hinder your rank more than not having a Man United defensive coverage. That's kind of my viewpoint on it right now. John was saying, good evening, everything good for the stream? Yes, good that you are here and that's okay. And Sam saying, who would you bench, Almiron, Martinelli or Foden? And my answer to that is you need to find a way to start all of those. I cannot sit here and tell you to bench any of them because I expect all of them to perform very well if they were to start. So Sam, come back to me with your starting 11 so I can get an idea on who you're starting ahead of those players. Obviously, you can only have 3 defenders minimum, which of course probably impacts the starters that you have. Is it Surgeon saying any news on Walker? I've heard nothing on Walker, unfortunately. So I think you're in a bit of a predicament right now where you probably start Walker and just hope that he plays and gets game time. And if he doesn't get any game time, fingers crossed he's not picking up a couple of minutes off the bench, really. But Walker is a frustrating player to be in. So I'm going to park the questions for 2 minutes, guys, while I pick up my team reveal. I'm going to quickly cover that off while answering your questions in the chat. I'm conscious we have just over an hour until the deadline, so we have plenty of time as well as discussing my team reveal. We won't be talking too much on mine because we don't have too much information to discuss. Whereas in Game Week 17, I kind of had to reveal all of my team. We don't have to ramble on about all of that, which is a bonus. One thing, guys, as always, if you do enjoy the stream, please do drop it a like. It just shows that it's adding some value to you guys. And of course, if you're not subscribed already, if you enjoy it, hit the subscribe button. If you don't enjoy it, of course, do not be forced to hit that subscribe button. And if you are trying to keep up to date with all of our content, hit that notification bell. It just means that you're going to get a notification anytime we drop a live stream or a new video. That would be highly appreciated as well. And if you didn't know already, we are doing an awesome deal, which is basically free access to the Fantasy Football Fix website between now and Game Week 21 deadline. I really recommend you guys checking it out. The link is in the bio. The one thing I will say is it's not applicable to those that have had a free trial in the past with Fantasy Football Fix. If you haven't taken a free trial in the past, then this is for you. You really do need to check it out. Link is in the bio. You get access to everything on the site, and just the stats alone is worthwhile, let alone all the awesome added extras that we do have. So without further ado, guys, let's get into my team reveal for Game Week 18, and we can cover off some of your questions while we are looking at my team. Okay, guys, so here is how the team is looking. And I'm almost locked in with this team unless we get any crazy team news announcements or any injury news that we didn't know about. This is how my team is going to stick. Now, you'll notice that third on my bench, I have got Reece James. Now, a lot of people have been discussing what to do with Reece James, and I've been a little bit on the fence right now about what to do with him. One argument that a lot of people are saying is that you don't make the transfer this week, gain a bit more information for Game Week 19, in Game Week 18, to then make your moves with 2 free transfers in Game Week 19. Now, the problem that I have with that strategy is we're not going to get much information over the coming days, I don't think. We're not going to have the FA Cup games, which means that we're not going to know any more about the double game week. So anybody who's kind of waiting to get double game week news is very unlikely. We're not going to get anything. So whatever you're thinking now, you're not going to have any more information based on the fixtures. The only real benefit of holding your free transfer is 2 things. First and foremost, it means that you can be a bit more flexible with your squad and have a bit more, what's the word? Basically, Game Week 18, Game Week 19, apologies. For me, in my team that you can see on the screen, having the 2 free transfers just give me a bit more clarity on what direction to go in. So right now, I could do, for example, Reece James to Robertson, use my million in the bank and be done with it. But then we get to the following game week. Let's say Martial doesn't make it through the Wolves game. Let's say, for example, Cancelo gets benched once again. If I was to have them 2 free transfers of Game Week 19, it just gives me a bit more flexibility with the side to know, okay, I need to come down from Reece James to someone like a Botman or a Luke Shaw to then invest the rest of the funds elsewhere in my squad. If I was to make a decision right now to go up from Reece James to Robertson, I've kind of blocked myself from making any upgrades to the rest of the team. And likewise, if I was to go down from Reece James to a Luke Shaw, for example, we know that Dalot is back in training right now. So what's to say that in this game week, Shaw plays, absolutely, it performs really well. But then we get information that ahead of Game Week 19 that Dalot is going to be available. And we all know that Dalot is a better option than Luke Shaw from an FPL perspective. Then people who went for Luke Shaw might regret it, and you can make that nice differential move to go to Dalot that we know historically picks up much more bonus than Luke Shaw. So because of that thought process, that's what I'm currently opting for right now, is to roll my free transfer on Reece James, except that I'm probably going to get a price fault in him, which is likely to happen tonight, is worth noting, just to see whether a few players in my team make it through Game Week 18. Importantly, Martial is going to be one of those players. But let me know in the comments, guys, what your plans are with Reece James. We have got a section after this where I'm going to be discussing in detail the best Reece James replacements. So you're going to want to stick around for that one. But outside of that, guys, as I said, rolling the transfer, team pretty much picks itself. The only discussion I kind of had to myself was, could I squeeze Andreas Pereira into the team? But of course, that can't come at the expense of a defender. So you look at that starting 7 that I have. Name me one of those that you can get rid of. I don't think any of those are better. Apologies. Any of those are worse than Andreas Pereira. And because of that, I'm going to be sat there with Andreas Pereira, first sub, who is likely going to get a 20-point haul, which inevitably happens when you bench Andreas Pereira. But the team picks itself, guys. I'm more than happy to go into the game week with this. If I was to be forced to make a transfer this week, because some of you might be thinking, I have this exact team, but I want to make a transfer, I personally would do James to Luke Shaw. Get that coverage in the Man United defence, except that if Dalot was to return to Man United, that I've made my bed and I got to sleep in it, pulling the trigger early on Luke Shaw. I don't think Robertson is a good move for my team personally, because it blocks me from having an investment in the midfield to maybe go to an 8 million, or even change Martial to Mitrovic, because it would use all of my funds in the bank. And I just want people to be treading carefully a little bit, that if you do make that big jump up, you might struggle to make further investments in your team later down the line. But guys, I rambled enough on that section there. I'm just getting Twitter up in front of me a minute, just so that I have any last minute information that potentially might come out so it could help you guys with your game week plan. And I just don't want to be messing about with that there. But let me come into the comment section in a minute. We can cover off anything that anyone is asking. And then we're going to go into Reece James replacements. A little bit of a nice graphic where we can discuss anything going on there. Right. Jono saying, please help bring in White or Shaw for James. Okay. Jono, we will go into a bit more detail on the coverage, but I'm conscious time is of the essence here. So, look, if I was to look to replace one, right now, I probably would go for Luke Shaw of the two. I think long-term, Arsenal are the investment. But when we are looking at the fixture analyzer, and I've got this in front of me, unfortunately, you won't be able to see this, but Arsenal coming up. Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs, Man United in the next 4. I really like Arsenal's defence, but I would equally not be surprised at all if Arsenal don't keep a clean sheet in those next 4 fixtures. However, from game week 22 onwards, they have Everton and then a double game week. So you're going to want Arsenal coverage eventually. However, Man United are basically the opposite of what Arsenal are. Wolves, Bournemouth, then Man City and Arsenal. However, if fixtures go their way, they could potentially have a double game week in game week 20. And it's worth noting Arsenal might have a similar situation as well. And I think for the short term, I think I'd rather have Wolves, Bournemouth and a potential double game week in 20 rather than the Arsenal route with a potential double game week. Then it means that if you wanted to in game week 22 go sideways to someone like Ben White, you could make that move. So based on that, that's the route that I'm currently considering, guys, as we speak. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Maybe some other people are rushing to go more towards Arsenal early doors. Wayne saying, Martial and Nketiah long-term. I think that long-term, it's very difficult to answer both of those. I think Martial is one tight hamstring away from being pulled out of the team. But I think that his place is secure while he remains fit. And Nketiah, I think, has to stay in that team, but we're waiting for Gabriel Jesus to return to basically get his spot back. And because of that, I think the answer is going to be Martial. Probably just Martial, but it's very, very tight between the two. Questions. Alex, James to Castagne. Interesting. Castagne hasn't been mentioned much from a lot of people. Already have Shaw, Trippier, Cancelo, Bueno, and rotates well with Shaw and Trippier from game week 19 to 21. Okay, so I don't mind it, but obviously for this game week in particular, it isn't looking very promising with an away fixture against Liverpool. So my question to you would be, should you maybe look at investing yourself in someone like Ben White and just getting yourself an Arsenal coverage in a defence that is much better than Leicester's? That's the only deliberation I would have if I was you. And Lay saying, I brought Shaw in for James. Yes, I like the Shaw move. Luke Grayson, do I bring Cucurella in for James for this game week and the double? I have Kepa in goal though. So look, I really like Cucurella right now. I think with Chilwell waiting in the wings to return eventually, that will happen. But with Nottingham Forest, Man City and Fulham in a double game week, I don't think they're going to be rushing Chilwell back. What I would say is from game week 20 onwards, then I'll be a little bit worried about what would happen with Cucurella going forward. And because of that, I think bring Cucurella in with a caveat that later on there is a solid chance that we could see rotation happen for him. So just be cautious of that, guys, if that was to happen. What is your opinion on Odegaard right now and Isaac later when he is fit? Odegaard right now, I am really bullish on. I think he's been one of those midfielders that has been classically kind of overlooked right now because of the situation that is going on right now with Saka and Martinelli getting a lot of the plaudits, naturally playing in wider positions. But what we are seeing with Odegaard right now is he's operating on a basis which is pretty much on par with both Martinelli and Saka. Now, I'm just trying to get up here per 90 minutes the performance of the Arsenal midfielders. Okay, so expected FPL points, if we are looking at that, and for obviously midfielders that are playing over 500 minutes this season, because there's some random players that come into the mix then. It's worth noting, expected FPL points per 90, Odegaard is at 6.19. And remember, he is the cheapest of the bunch at 6.5 million. Saka, second best at 5.15. So he is a whole 1 expected FPL points less than Odegaard. And Martinelli coming in at 5 expected FPL points per 90. So look, if I was in the market right now for an Arsenal midfielder and I didn't have any of them, I think FPL value-wise, the answer is Odegaard at 1.5 million cheaper than Saka. If I had all the money in the world, Saka would be the answer because he is the penalty taker in the team. And I think that is quite a big thing that we need to consider. But right now, what we are seeing with Odegaard is that he is not only matching them in an expected goals department, but he is dominating them in the expected assist department. And because his game time is just absolutely guaranteed in this Arsenal team, being the captain and just the one that ticks over the team, Odegaard would be the answer there if I was in the market for one right now. Should I sell Rashford for Almiron? Absolutely not. Rashford is a brilliant option for the next few game weeks. Maxi, I'm not sure what your question is there, so you might have to just repeat that one in the section. Robbie, this is my team. Kepa, Saliba, Cancelo, Trippier, Foden, Rashford, Odegaard, Almiron, Nunes, Haaland, Kane. Should I play Shaw, White or Andreas instead of one of them? So your midfield is fantastic and your front line is fantastic, and you're playing a back three of Saliba, Cancelo and Trippier. So to be honest with you, the only thing I would consider there is potentially playing Luke Shaw over Saliba. I wouldn't be looking to get Andreas to replace any of those outfield players that you have. So it's a real coin flip between Luke Shaw and Saliba. I think naturally I'd be a bit more tempted to play Shaw because of the better fixture. But of course, I think the ownership in the Arsenal defence is going to be a lot higher in terms of overall ownership. So it's all about what kind of manager you are. I think Shaw is a bit more of the differential play. Saliba is the sensible kind of shield move that's going to cover you. So it's all about what kind of manager you are. I'd be tempted to go Shaw though, personally. I want to have two between Saka, Martinelli and Rashford. I would go for Saka and Rashford if you can afford the two. Sorry guys, just reading the comments here, make sure I'm not the duplicator. Brilliant stuff as always, dude. Always enjoy the content. Thank you very much. Recycled Shoes, awesome name as well there. Should I get a new keeper? I have Sanchez and Ward and 1.5 million in the bank. If it is a case if you're looking to play your one free transfer or roll your transfer, I would just definitely roll your transfer there. Yes, Sanchez doesn't have the best fixture right now, but I just don't think necessarily making that goalkeeper move this week is worthwhile personally. Would you start Andreas ahead of Foden because of the minutes risk? No. I think if you have Foden, you've got to start him, Cheeks. So you'll be devastated if you see Foden on that starting team sheet and he bags a hat-trick. Honestly, I think if Foden starts, Everton have conceded some of the most big chances. Now, again, you won't be able to see this on your screen, so I do apologise, but let me just get this up for myself here. Based on it so far this season, defensively, just so we look at it from teams playing away. Okay, so expected goals conceded, Everton are the 4th worst away from home. And in terms of, let me just get it up here. Whereabouts is it? Apologies, guys. This is probably terrible viewing right now. Shots conceded. They are conceding the most per 90 of any team. So, look, at the Etihad, you are getting dominated not only by possession, but in terms of territory and shots. I think it's a recipe for disaster of Everton, and I would not be surprised if it's 4 or 5-0, honestly. So if you have Foden, I think you have to start him. Why not Cucurella, double game week and next week? Yes, Recycle Shoes, I still think Cucurella is a brilliant pick. Just be cautious of Chilwell returning later down the line. But of course, that is something that we need to consider later down the line. I think for the short term, it is absolutely fine. Guys, for some reason the camera's playing up a minute. I'm just going to quickly just turn it off for 2 seconds. Give me a second. I'm still present. Don't worry. It probably looks very weird right now with what you're seeing on screen, but my voice is still here. Do not worry about that. It is just a case of having to turn my camera on a minute, off a minute, just so it resets as we speak. So do not worry about that, guys. It will obviously return in a minute. But keep firing the comments in the comment section, guys. I'll be answering them as much as I possibly can between now and the deadline. I'm also just setting up something else as well, so I make sure I have... Sorry, guys. Just setting this up. I'm still live, guys. We're just getting my camera sorted. Apologies. Give me 2 seconds. Probably looks like there's a ghost right now on screen. Right, I think we are golden. Apologies, guys. Right, I think we are good. There we go. There we go. We're back. We're back. Right, get your questions in, guys. And while we're putting your questions in, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the James section. Going to cover off some replacements and some underlying stats that are worthwhile for you to check out. Okay, guys. So next up, we have the Reece James replacements here. And on screen, you can see I have got Cucurella, Trippier, Robertson and White. Now, controversially, I don't have Shaw on the list here. And I have to confess, it was a player that didn't slip my mind necessarily. But at the time of putting up the stats, I didn't necessarily think that Shaw was better than these 4 options. So we know that Shaw is a fantastic option. And I do stick by that for sure. Playing on words there. But Shaw in the rankings here, if Man United were to get confirmation of a double game week, would be right up there as an alternative to Ben White. But this is a really good graphic for you guys to see this on screen here, just to check it out. Trippier leading the expected FPL points department, which of course is something that we all need to consider because output doesn't necessarily determine future returns. Expected clean sheets once the player is on the pitch. Ben White leads the way, followed by Trippier. And the big thing there is Liverpool and Chelsea defensively aren't really showing us any confidence in regards to clean sheets, which is a little bit of a worry there. Expected assists, Ben White, Cucurella right down there, but Trippier and Robertson delivering. And I think that's a big factor when we are considering the price point that we are paying for a player. But the big one that determines whether a player is a fantastic defender or a good defender, I think, is the bonus point department. And you can see there per 90 minutes, 1.27 bonus per 90. And this is why Trippier is by far the best Reece James replacement if you do not own him already. Currently averaging 1.27 bonus points per 90. It's a no-brainer right now if you are looking to go for a defender at that price point. When players tick along with someone like Trippier, which a lot of people don't really realise right now, is once Trippier gets a clean sheet, for a lot of players like Ben White, like Cucurella, that's a 6-pointer. But because of the bonus point kind of threshold that Trippier has, if he was to get a clean sheet, he's basically guaranteeing himself an 8-pointer week in, week out. And each and every week, once he accumulates those 2 additional points, that's where the difference happens between players when we're looking at the overall scores at the end of the season. So Trippier is just an absolute monster when it comes to bonus points. Now we're looking at the predicted points for this week. Trippier leading the way once again and also leading over the next 5 game weeks. But of course, there are some potential double game weeks to be dropped in there, guys. Now, as I said, Shaw should be on this list, absolutely. But again, it's all about your kind of position that you're in right now, depending on what kind of defender you want to bring in and the price point that you have invested right now. So if you're in a position right now where you are looking to go for James down to a different option, I would probably prioritise Luke Shaw over Ben White as we speak. But I'd probably have Cucurella if you don't have Kepa in goal above both of those. However, if you have Kepa in goal, I would then prioritise Luke Shaw, followed by Cucurella, followed by Ben White. That's the order that I would personally go. Then Robertson is a luxury move if you feel like you don't need that additional funds in the bank to upgrade elsewhere in your squad. So that's kind of the thoughts right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, and what they are on the chat. It'd be awesome to know what is going on here. So guys, that is kind of the thought process right now in terms of where we are going. So guys, I'm just turning this off a minute on here because it is interrupting with my stream. Here we go. Hey guys, let me know what your thoughts are on the chat here. If you have any ideas about predicted points as well, let me know and I'll get them up on screen so we can discuss them in a bit more detail. Tom saying, thoughts on keeping KDB over Salah? I'm worried he won't start. Now, I'll be very, very surprised if Kevin De Bruyne wasn't to start this game week. And I think it's a perfect example here of the swing in choosing one player compared to the other. I'm absolutely devastated for those people that had KDB, because you saw a performance from KDB that should have been reaping returns. Now, again, this isn't going to be on your screens here, but it's worth just noting the performance of KDB versus Mo Salah in game week 17. So let me just get that up a minute. So Mo Salah, of course, delivering the goods as we know already. But if I get Kevin De Bruyne up on my screen, let's just compare the two a minute. And of course, I'm just going to be reading this out for you. So do not worry about you not being able to see it on screen because naturally you won't be able to. So looking at game week 17 in isolation, and this is what I just want to discuss about the kind of variance in the players. Okay, so Mo Salah against his fixture against Aston Villa had 3 shots, 4 attempted assists, and an XG of 1.02 and expected FPL assists of 0.51. De Bruyne, on the other hand, had 3 shots himself, 4 attempted assists, but his XG was at 0.11 and his expected assist was at 0.49. That accumulated in Salah having an expected FPL points of 10.85 compared to De Bruyne's 4.59. So when we done videos previously, we discussed how Salah was by far the better goal threat. Mo Salah was the more, Salah was the goal threat. De Bruyne was the chance creator. And part and parcel, Salah delivered that kind of thought process there, having a 1.02 XG. But surprisingly, Salah delivered in the expected goals department compared to Kevin De Bruyne. Now, would I look at these underlying stats and think to myself, I have to do Kevin De Bruyne to Mo Salah this week? Absolutely not. I do not think that is the case at all. The way I'm sitting at it right now is this. If I owned neither, my answer would be Mo Salah. If I had Mo Salah, I would keep Mo Salah. If I had Kevin De Bruyne, I would keep Kevin De Bruyne. That is my thought process right now in regards to Mo Salah and Kevin De Bruyne. I really don't think you need to panic, and I would almost decide to prioritise rolling your free transfer rather than making a sideways move anywhere, because it's a classic case in FPL. If you chase points, then sometimes you ask for trouble sometimes, because they're both fantastic premium options. And if I'm telling you right now, De Bruyne starts at home against this Everton team that have conceded some of the most big chances of any team, I think you absolutely lock in him as an option in your team. Pope or Edison long term? I think the answer is Edison. I think there's enough comparison in the price to justify just going Edison slightly more expensive. Should I start Alisson or Kepa? I already have both. The answer there, I think, would be starting Alisson. Luke Grayson, I have Kepa, Trippier, Wan-Bissaka. Interesting. Wan-Bissaka, Cancelo, Rashford, Trossard, Martinelli, Foden, Darwin, Haaland, Kane. Thoughts on what I should do? Well, your bench of Wan-Bissaka, Cancelo and Trippier, your defence is fantastic there. And I think Wan-Bissaka will start this week. Probably a risk the following week once Dalot returns. So based on that, I think you can roll your free transfer happily, because my question to you is, if you were to sell Reece James and bring in, let's say, an Arsenal defender, would you want to play him over Wan-Bissaka knowing that he starts? Probably not. So because of that, I think you roll your free transfer, Luke, go into game week 19 with 2 free transfers, because I'm already foreseeing some problems for your team. For example, Wan-Bissaka, that could be an easy transfer out for you. And having 2 free transfers available means that what you could do is sell Wan-Bissaka and sell another player and upgrade in different departments. So because of that, I like the team that you've selected, and I agree with the decision there of rolling the free transfer if you have already. William says, should I bring in Mitrovic for Callum Wilson? Now, this is the really tough one right now in regards to Callum Wilson, because I can't sit here and confidently tell you whether Callum Wilson does or doesn't start. That's the big problem right now. I think you have to almost, and these are the situations that sometimes happen in fantasy football, is that you have to almost make your bed and sleep in it. So what I mean by that is, if Callum Wilson, you decide to sell him, you have to just accept that if he starts and he scores, you have made the logical move of selling a minute's risk for a player that you think is going to be a guaranteed starter. So I probably would sell him for Mitrovic personally, just because Mitrovic has a double game week coming up. As long as he doesn't get a yellow card, he won't be suspended for it. And just accept that if Callum Wilson starts and scores, you didn't have the information available to you to confidently do it. Robbie, with my front line of Haaland, Kane and Núñez, should I consider bringing in Mitrovic for Kane or Núñez for game week 19 onwards? As Mitrovic, yes, so look, we can definitely consider that from game week 19 onwards. Just to refresh your memory based on the players that you mentioned. Liverpool in game week 19 have an away fixture against Brentford, and Spurs have an away fixture against Crystal Palace. But what we do need to remember is that in game week 20, Spurs have a double game week against Arsenal and Man City. So although you might sell Kane to bring in Mitrovic for his games against Leicester and Chelsea, he then has Newcastle, Spurs and Chelsea followed after that. So my argument to you would be this. Yes, you're going to get Mitrovic for game week 19 with that double game week, selling Kane, for example. But then Kane, the following game week, has a double, followed by Fulham, City, Leicester. So I don't think Kane to Mitrovic is necessarily a desperate move, unless the money that you're saving is going to invest elsewhere in your squad. Now, with Darwin, he is one that doesn't have a double game week right now, and I'm not sure off the top of my head whether there is a chance Liverpool could have a double. And he has Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, Wolves, Everton. And based on that, then I think there is potential logic to sell Darwin Núñez to someone like Mitrovic for that double game week. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Not something you need to deliberate right now until we get to New Year's Day and that game week 19 deadline. Sam says, sorry to ask him, my team midfield is Odegaard and Rashford, and my attack is Mitrovic, Kane and Haaland. From Almiron, Martinelli and Foden, who should I bench? It is too difficult. That is honestly incredibly difficult, because I do agree with you that you cannot bench Mitrovic, Kane or Haaland. You got yourself in a bit of a sticky situation here, Sam. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the predicted points based on Fantasy Football Fix's algorithm, just to give you a bit of a third-party opinion outside of my personal opinion. So the players that we're looking at right now is Almiron, Martinelli and Foden. So let me just get this. And again, these won't be on screen for you, so I do apologise, but I can just read them out for you to know. So for game week 18 in isolation, because of course that is the one that we're focusing on right now, Almiron is predicted to get 6 points, which is worth noting it's right up there with one of the best midfielders. Next up, I believe you said Martinelli, am I right? Martinelli or Foden. Martinelli projected to score 4.1. And Foden projected to score 2.9. But the reason being in regards to Foden is because of his expected minutes have hindered him, and it naturally meant that his predicted points are a lot less. So I think it's very difficult to go without Almiron because of the ownership right now. So I think you have to start Almiron. And then it's another midfielder that you need to start. Between both Martinelli and Foden, because you have the investment in Odegaard, I'm probably going to say take a punt, go for Foden and pray that he starts. With a home fixture against Everton, I think the ceiling is massive for Foden. Whereas with Martinelli, the stats haven't been too kind of recent. And I think having Odegaard is a good enough investment coverage in that Arsenal midfield. So for me, I would start Almiron, I would start Foden, and I would bench Martinelli. But you have to understand, Sam, that you're in a position right now that benching any of those is asking for trouble. Mohammed, is it worth to transfer out Reece James and Wilson to Mitrovic and some other defender for a -4 if your bench is Andreas, Castagne and Patterson? Well, first and foremost, I think you have a brilliant coverage in Andreas, so I don't think a -4 is needed. Andreas Pereira posted some fantastic underlying stats in game week 17. Again, you won't see the stats, but I'm just going to get these up for you now so you are aware of them. And just to know that Andreas Pereira isn't a player that you should be thinking, oh God, like I have to play him this week. It isn't that case at all with Andreas Pereira. So let me just get them up. Andreas. Okay. So Andreas Pereira, in his one game, and he played 85 minutes, posted an expected FPL points of 5.95. He had an XG of 0.54 and an XG of 0.2. Now, we need to remember that was against a Crystal Palace team that had 9 players. But he still produces regular, decent underlying stats. So because of that, I don't think the -4 is worthwhile. I think you maybe just pull the trigger on one of those and maybe going for Wilson to Mitrovic is the right move. The one thing I would say to you is, in this situation, you know that Reece James is confirmed out for a month. So you almost want to think to yourself, do I just get rid of the player that is guaranteed to be out of my team in someone like Reece James, go to someone like Luke Shaw, get myself some guaranteed game time and play Wilson and just pray that he starts? That might be the route that I would recommend right now. And again, I don't know about Wilson's game time. I do apologise. It is worth noting, I highly recommend people checking out on, on Twitter regarding any sort of updates that I have missed. Because of course, being on the stream here, sometimes I don't keep completely in the know about what is going in on certain players. So just let me know in the chat. We could help one another if any questions do crop up. I'm just checking myself, guys, so I apologise for kind of like the stunted responses on the chat, but I am conscious that we still have over half an hour until the deadline, so time is actually on our side right now, which is quite surprising because those that do tune in, usually know that I am like a madman trying to answer all questions until the deadline. So it's quite nice to have a bit more of a chilled stream, even though it is a deadline. And it's great to have my team locked in as well, which is always a promising thing. So it's worth noting as well, quite a common, just so you're aware, quite a common strategy has been a lot of high-profile managers rolling their free transfer. But again, I don't want that to influence your decision-making going forward at all. It is a strategy that a lot have done, but I wouldn't necessarily say it is definitely just for you. Right. Stephen Curtis, Nunes captain, XG through the roof compared to Haaland, playing against a weak Leicester defence compared to Everton's. Okay, so Stephen, first and foremost, I applaud your bravery going against Haaland. I'm somebody that went against Haaland captaincy when he scored that hat-trick and got 2 assists against Man United. I still have sleepless nights to this day about that. But one thing I will say is this. Going against Haaland is scary, and it is really detrimental to your rank if he does go off, because you are really backing on Nunes to deliver and considerably deliver. Your point there about his XG through the roof compared to Haaland's, I think, is a little bit incorrect. Again, I don't want to kind of say that you're wrong, but I just want to make sure that for those tuning into the stream are aware of the facts in regards to the XG for both players. So looking at the XG per 90 minutes for both players, just so I have it up, and just so you know, game week 17, yes, Darwin did have a better XG per 90 of 1.54 compared to Haaland's 1.36. So both were unbelievable in that department. But again, we don't want to be reading just into one game week in isolation. And when we're looking at XG per 90 for players, for forwards, just to give you an idea, Haaland is at 1.01 per 90 this season. Darwin is at 0.89. So yes, Darwin did outscore Haaland in the XG department for game week 17 in isolation, but just remember we are looking at the course of the season, and Darwin is below Haaland by about 0.2. But again, I don't want to be knocking your decision now. I just want to make sure that it's kind of clear for those that are tuning into the live stream. Luke, thanks for reviewing my team. I bought AW Wan-Bissaka for the short-term fixtures due to Man United injuries. Going to look to take him out in the next few game weeks. I'm looking to bring in Mitrovic and Darwin. Yeah, so Luke, based on what you said there, I think rolling your free transfer is the best move, because you know that you need to get rid of Wan-Bissaka, and having 2 free transfers just gives you the flexibility in game week 19 rather than rushing your transfers this game week for a player that you might not necessarily want longer term. William saying, is Willian a good differential to bring in for Fulham's double game week? Could be a differential, still massively prefer Andreas Pereira at a cheaper price. Luke saying, what should I do with Trossard, keep or sell? Very tricky right now. I think the big question right now is, who are you looking as an alternative? I think Trossard, historically, has done very well against the big teams. Scored against Chelsea, scored against Liverpool, and scored against Spurs, I believe. So I don't think necessarily his game that he has this week against Arsenal is anything disastrous. Of course, there are better options at cheaper prices, but we need to remember with the fixtures coming up for Brighton, just to remind you of the games that they have. Let me just get up for myself. Brighton's fixtures coming up are Arsenal at home, Everton away, Liverpool at home, Leicester away, Bournemouth at home. Now, on the face of it, terrible fixtures, but there is a very, very high chance of a double game week for Brighton and a very slim chance of a triple game week for Brighton. And based on that, I don't think you should be rushing Trossard out your team anytime soon. My advice would be keep him in your team for this week, get to game week 19, see if any other fires emerge in your team. The only problem is, we're not going to get any information about double game weeks until the game week 20 deadline. So it's just whether you can be patient enough to have Trossard till then. I think you hold him for game week 18, though. I don't think you make any rash decisions to get rid of him right now. Sam said, thank you very much for your opinion and help. No worries at all, Sam. And while we're at it, I'm just going to get the projected points up on screen just so you guys get an idea on which players are looking to do the best in each position. So let me get them up for you now. And again, guys, please do not hesitate to put any questions in the comment section. We have about half an hour until the deadline, so we have plenty of time to answer any of those burning questions between now and the game week 18 deadline. Again, guys, apologies. I'm just looking down here to make sure I'm covered off with all of the information here. News coming out that basically Liverpool are confirmed pretty much to have the same starting 11 as last game. Liverpool, Tielemans and Vardy not in the starting lineup. It is worth mentioning as well. So just be cautious of that, guys, as well. But I don't think that affects many people there. Yes, no more information right now in regards to team news. So we're just going to roll with it as we speak. Okay, yep. We are golden there. Okay, guys, right, back into the comment section. Apologies for that, bit of downtime there. I just wanted to make sure that I was covering off any other last-minute bits. Right, there we go. Where we go? Where's that one? Okay, right. Questions, guys, get them in. So, first and foremost, projected points for this game week. We can see there that the goalkeepers, I always kind of cover these ones off super quick because I don't really recommend anyone making a goalkeeper transfer. But if you were in a position right now where you owned both Edison and Kepa, based on our projected points, the answer is going to be Edison going into this game week. I think just with the home fixture against Everton, it just feels like a clean sheet for Man City, and the underlying stats do suggest that as well. Defenders, very, very similar names appearing. Trippier, just one of the best options available. Robertson, as I said, a real luxury transfer from Reece James to Robertson. But if you can get there and it doesn't hinder your squad, I really do like that move in particular for this week. I think that's a real differential for your teams. Akanji appearing really well, but I just can't sit here and confidently tell you that Akanji is guaranteed to start for Man City. So based on that, although he comes up good on the underlying stats and on our projected points, I'm just not going to sit here and tell you to bring him into your team. Thiago Silva is another one. Looks great on the projected points department, but does he play every game? I don't know about that one. And Trent, looking good again, but I would pay a little bit less and go for Robertson as my Liverpool defender if I was to go down that route. Midfielders, Salah still top of the tree, but De Bruyne only slightly behind at 6.5 projected points. I think that kind of confirms to us that Salah is still the man that you buy, but just be cautious that if you sell De Bruyne to Salah, you could get bit there because I think De Bruyne has a real high ceiling this week. Then the usual suspects with Almiron. Son appearing, but nobody is owning Son because of his price point in the game. And Bruno Guimaraes, somebody who some people are considering, but I think Almiron plus Bruno in your midfield is just a little bit too much for the Newcastle team. Forwards, surprise, surprise, Haaland top of the tree at 8.1, Kane at 6.2, followed by Mitrovic, Darwin and Tony. But I really would argue that Darwin has the massive ceiling that he could hit going into this game week, guys. So let me know your thoughts. Obviously, any more questions you have going into the deadline, please do drop it in the chat. Kagiso saying, thoughts on Salah, captain in for Kevin De Bruyne this week, 1 week punt. I've covered this, Kagiso. I really don't like it. Yes, I love Salah as a captaincy, but look, Everton have conceded the most shots of any team from away from home. They got one of the worst expected goals conceded. I just think with Kevin De Bruyne right now, he could be on for a monster haul against Everton. Yes, Salah could be good, but my problem with this move is that you're using a valuable free transfer to do KDB to Salah, which, look, I can't knock anybody doing. But then, game week 19, Man City have their fixture away against Chelsea, whereas Liverpool have their game against Brentford away. So both very tricky fixtures. But then in game week 20, Man City have a double game week. So you're basically going to do KDB to Salah to then go back to Kevin De Bruyne. And I think based on that reasoning, I just can't really justify you doing that move personally. Luke, should I look to get Almiron in my squad in the future game weeks or try and get him very soon? Start Andreas Southampton at home or start Trossard at Arsenal at home? Really tough one here because Trossard has got a good record against the big teams. Obviously, fixture-wise, I prefer Andreas Pereira, absolutely. And based on our projected points, I'm just going to get them up again because I really do like using, again, guys, you can get all of this information on our free trial. Link is in the bio. You can get the whole Fantasy Football Fix package for free between now and the Game Week 21 deadline. Just a reminder, It is a free trial. If you've taken a free trial with Fantasy Football Fix in the past, it isn't entitled to you. This is only entitled to those people that have not taken a Fantasy Football Fix free trial in the past. But honestly, guys, if you haven't taken the trial before, I highly recommend it. This is valuable information. The things that I'm discussing here is all taken from the site. So, based on projected points for this week, for the two players that you mentioned, Trossard is projected to score 3.2. Whereas the other person that you mentioned was Andreas Pereira is projected to score 4.4. So look, based on projected points, Andreas Pereira is the answer there. Trossard, though, just does well in their big games. So just be cautious of that one there. Ram saying start Almiron or Tony. I think I've got to back Almiron there personally. Just a reminder that Brentford's fixture is away against West Ham. And I think that is an okay fixture for Tony. But I got to back Almiron in this situation here. Lay saying he's just signed up for the Fantasy Football Fix 23-day trial. Let's go, Lay. Really hope it provides some value to you. Let me know how it does get on. Just want to remind you, make sure you do cancel the free trial if you don't want to continue with it before the Game Week 21 deadline. Otherwise, if you go over and pass that deadline, you will then get charged for the following month. So just a heads up there, but hopefully, Lay, you enjoy it enough that you will continue with your subscription after the free trial ends. But let me know your thoughts on it in future live streams. It'd be great to hear your thoughts in there. Honestly, there is so much to unpack on the free trial and Fantasy Football Fix. I haven't even scratched the surface on it. Paulie Messi saying, I need someone to replace James, but I already have White. Okay, so we kind of covered off the thought process on Reece James replacement. So I'm just going to put the graphic up here. But again, it is worth noting that Luke Shaw isn't in the screen here, but I think he's a fantastic option. So you already have Ben White. So my first question to you is, could you roll the free transfer and just start Ben White this game week? I think that's absolutely a good move. And what I just want to quickly call out here, guys, is based on the stats for teams away from home, because of course we are looking at how Arsenal could perform away from home from a defensive perspective against Brighton. So in terms of expected goals conceded away from home, Arsenal have the best record of any team, it's worth noting. Looking at shots conceded, Arsenal are second best away from home. And in terms of expected clean sheets, they have the best as well at 4.1 expected clean sheets over the period. So honestly, guys, I wouldn't be too worried about playing an Arsenal defender. So firstly, mate, what I would say to you is, could you start Ben White over Reece James, roll your free transfer and have 2 free transfers for game week 19? If you really want to make the move and get rid of Reece James, things to consider. If you have money in the bank, I think Robertson is the best move. If you have no Newcastle coverage right now, you have to get Trippier into a team. I think that's just an absolute no-brainer. If you don't have money in the bank and you already have Trippier, then I think the answer is Luke Shaw. That's the way I'm kind of considering it right now. Nicholas saying, FPL says someone is missing. I don't know who. Kepa, Shaw, Cucurella, Trippier. I'm not sure what you mean on someone is missing, so let me know on that one, buddy. AO Endos is saying, should I transfer out Martial for Mitrovic for game week 18? I personally own Martial and I'm going to be holding him for this game week. I think it is a transfer that would pay dividends and you're then going to have Mitrovic for his double game week in 19. But I personally just view that having 2 free transfers for game week 19 is a bit more powerful than pulling the trigger on that transfer for game week 18. But of course, if you're not that confident on the situation with Martial away against Wolves, then look, I don't think it is a bad move at all. It's worth noting as well, we have very little information about Wolves because of their new manager in charge. We can only take a bit of information about their fixture they had in game week 17 against Everton. And based on that fixture alone, let's just get the information up on how that game played out. Because of course we're looking mainly at Man United, Wolves from a defensive perspective. So in that game, Wolves conceded an XG conceded of 1.43. And this is against an Everton team, it's worth noting, okay? Shots conceded, they conceded 12 shots in that game. And in the box of those shots, 7 were in the box. Okay, so look, difficult to understand whether the Wolves manager is going to be a defensive-minded manager against Man United. But what we did see against that Everton team is he's still a work in progress right now. And if Everton can accumulate a 1.4 expected goals against them, then I do think that there is a solid chance that Martial and Rashford could still have decent returns. So I don't think you need to panic about Martial's fixture away against Wolves. I do just think it's more about, are you desperate to get Mitrovic into your team? Lay noted, that's good to see. Nicholas, I got a notification saying a player isn't available for this game week. Okay. Based on the players that you have got there, and you're saying someone is missing. From what I understand, the players that you've put on there are all available for this game week. So I don't think you need to necessarily panic. All these players are available, and I think they're all fit as well. So I think you're okay. I'm not sure what that means there. Luke saying, are you going to start Kepa for his double versus Man City and Fulham? Quite risky if he doesn't keep a clean sheet. Yeah, so Luke, first and foremost, I went for the Kepa Ward combination with no desire to sell either of those long term because I don't really value goalkeepers that much in this game. So Chelsea's double game week comes in game week 19, where, as you mentioned, they have City and Fulham. Leicester's game is home against Fulham. I just think Kepa is a no-brainer there, and I'd always start the double game week goalkeeper because we need to remember goalkeepers are a very unique position where even if they concede, they can save a penalty and rack up a monster haul. What I love about Kepa is that he's kind of a dream FPL asset, and he's almost what Ramsdale was last season. When we're picking up an FPL goalkeeper, you don't want to necessarily get a goalkeeper that plays in the best defence because goalkeepers like Ederson and Alisson, they don't really rack up many save points, in particular Ederson. So that's why he always ticks over with 6.6, which is great. But when you're looking for an FPL goalkeeper, you want to have somebody who plays in a good defence, but accumulates saves and bonus points. And in that department, Kepa is by far the best. Now, I'm just going to get the information up in front of me here. So for goalkeepers right now, obviously Kepa has been sharing his minutes with Mendy, but he's kind of established himself as the number one goalkeeper. But based on saves, I'll tell you what, let me get it up on here if I can, because this will be a bit more detailed. Goalkeepers. FPL bonus per 90. Here we go. For the whole season. Right, here we go. And have played more than 500 minutes. Okay, right. So when we're looking at goalkeepers, we want to be looking at what their bonus point threshold is, what their save kind of accumulation is. With Kepa, he is currently top for all goalkeepers for bonus point accumulation at 0.77 per 90, which is fantastic. And in terms of expected FPL points, he's top of the tree as well at 4.4. And again, with goalkeepers, we need to remember that they don't necessarily need to keep clean sheets to accumulate decent points. As long as they're racking up the saves, that's really promising for these sorts of players. So again, when we're looking at saves as well, Kepa has made in regards to saves, let me just get it up. It is not coming up. Okay, ignore that. But anyway, Kepa, I think is a fantastic pick in that double game week. Nicholas, I transferred James out before that notification came up, so it probably was on about him. Yes, that is definitely it in terms of James. That answers it there. Is Saliba available this game week? Yes, I believe Saliba is available this game week. He played last game week. I see no reason why he won't play in this game week, and I think he's still a good pick. I discussed the Arsenal defence being the best away defence in the league, so I don't think it's necessarily bad that they're playing against Brighton. Yes, Brighton are a good team, but I don't think you need to panic right now. If you're in a position where you want to roll your free transfer and Ben White is the man or Saliba is the man that is replacing him in your starting 11, then I absolutely think that is more than fine to have for your team. Now, guys, I'm conscious that a few of you may have jumped in the chat, so what I'm going to do is just put up my team reveal here just so you can see what I am running with right now. My decision this week is to roll my free transfer. What I'm going to be doing is starting Ben White, having my free transfer to have 2 in game week 19. So then I have the decision maybe to do Reece James to Luke Shaw, to Dallo, or I can go all the way up to someone like Robertson if that is the choice longer term. So that's kind of my thought process right now, and I can confirm that I am locked basically on this team. I see no reason why I need to change it going forward, so I am more than happy with that. Luke's asking how many points am I on overall so far this season, and I can confirm, and it's been a really ropey start to the season right now. I have got 1,012 points overall, and my overall rank is 345,000. Again, it's always interesting to see how your rank kind of fluctuated during the season. For me personally, where it really came downhill was in game week 8. Because in game week 8, for all we know, is when... what's happening in game week 8? So let me get it up. Game week 8 was a problem for me big time, but the major turning point was in... Where is it? I can't remember what game week it was, but basically I just got dominated because I didn't have Haaland as captain, and it killed me massively. So that was a bit of a dark time in my season, to say the least. I believe it was in game week 13 maybe. Anyway, really fluctuated my rank, but I'm kind of content now where I'm at, and I'm hoping that we can progress through the ranks. Who to start? Aubameyang, Pulisic, Mahrez, Chamberlain or Grealish? I know I shouldn't have any of them, but who should I start? Yeah, so firstly, that is a wild pick of players there. That is most differential pack I've ever seen. So I think Chamberlain starts tonight, so it is worth mentioning that. But let me know right now, how many do you need to start? Like, basically, how many do you need to bench out of that bunch, or how many do you need to start? Let me know there. Yeah, first, that's the big question right now. How many of these do you need to start? I would be worried right now about a lot of those game times. But yeah, let me know in the chat how many you need to start out of that bunch. And again, guys, if you're just joining in, make sure you say hi, drop a like on the stream, and let me know any questions that you have going into this deadline. We have 15 minutes until the game week 18 deadline, so we have still a little bit of time, no need to panic. But again, I feel like a lot of people right now are in a position where they are probably thinking to themselves that they are going to roll their free transfer, or had quite an easy decision what to do with their James replacement. As I mentioned, my current plan is to roll my free transfer going into game week 18 to give myself flexibility going into game week 19. I just feel like it's the right move for my team, and of course captaincy on Haaland. But let me know your thoughts in the chat, guys. It'd be really interesting to know your current game week plans. Just checking on Twitter to see if there's any more information in regards to team news, but unfortunately I think we're going to not get much more now between now and the deadline in regards to any sort of team changes, team updates. So just be cautious of that, guys. Probably the information that we have right now is the information that we are dealing with going forward. So yeah, let me get the projected points back up on screen for you guys so you have that available, and you are tuning in to the players that are producing the best goods. If you are looking for an alternative to Haaland, I think the answer is going to be Salah as captaincy. I think that probably is the route that I would go for. Outside of that, Darwin is a punt, and I feel like the ceiling is massive for him, but I probably would prefer Salah over Darwin. Main reason being is because of the penalties that he has. I think that's a big factor when we are considering players and their captaincy alternatives. Now, of course, games tonight are going to be West Ham at home against Brentford and Liverpool at home against Leicester. Saturday, big day of football, with Wolves against Man United, and the evening game being Brighton against Arsenal, which I think is really interesting. Sunday, New Year's Day, Spurs against Aston Villa, and the last up is Nottingham Forest at home against Chelsea. And we have a swift deadline Monday. I believe it's a 4 o'clock deadline, so it's quite a quick turnaround there. Brentford against Liverpool kicking off at 5:30, so it'll be a 4 o'clock deadline there. So make sure you do tune in to our live stream then. I will be live from 3 p.m. onwards up until that 4 p.m. deadline. So you're going to want to make sure you stick around for that. But of course, that is going to be the double game week, I believe, where it is going to basically long out game week 19. We're going to be seeing all the games end by Thursday, the 5th of January. But Chelsea will then have their double game week against Fulham on Thursday, the 12th of January. So it is worth noting that as well for game week 19. And I believe then game week 20 deadline will be coming up to the 13th of January. So a long, long way away. Dom saying, I have James injured, Bueno and Patterson on bench. Should I roll the transfer or transfer in Shaw/Shah? Okay, so this is a bit of a difficult situation here. First of all, Dom HJI, can you let me know your other defenders that you'll be starting? So I'm guessing you have James, Bueno, Patterson. Do you have Trippier and Cancelo by any chance? Just put them 2 names that you have in your team there. In this situation here, I would be more inclined to maybe sell Reece James. Now, I think you need to maybe look a bit more long-term and think to yourself, is going down to another cheaper option the best route? I think probably going to Shaw or Ben White is the route that I would consider right now, personally. But in your situation, I can't sit here and guarantee you Bueno starts, and I don't think Patterson is going to get anything against Man City. So in your situation, I think selling James is the right move. And as I mentioned, I think going to Luke Shaw is a viable move with their fixture and potential double in 20. Who to start? Okay, so I mentioned earlier, buddy, about you saying how many you have to start. But based on what you've put there, I can't tell you to start Aubameyang. So I think you probably would start Chamberlain, because I think Liverpool have an unchanged 11. You start Chamberlain. I think you probably start Pulisic, because I think Chelsea will roll out the same team once again. I don't know whether he's fit or not, but I think your situation right now is I would probably start Chamberlain. I would start Chamberlain. I would start Pulisic. I would start Grealish and Mahrez, and I would bench Aubameyang. That is the route that I would go for in your team there. And you're saying Dom saying you have Trippier and Cancelo and other defenders. Yes, so right now you're probably lining up with Trippier, Cancelo, and probably Bueno, hoping that he starts in that fixture. Based on your situation, although I think rolling the free transfer is still possible for you, I think there's probably more upside in you selling Reece James and going to either Luke Shaw or Ben White. Now, I'll put this up on screen here for the James replacements, just so you've got some underlying stats in front of you here. I'm conscious that I don't have Shaw in there, so I do apologise. And can you just let me know who your goalkeeper is as well? It'd be worth noting. Because I think if you have Kepa in goal, I don't think you're in a rush to bring in Cucurella. So I think going to Luke Shaw is a good move for you. Ben White, I don't think you're going to reap any rewards in the short term, but you have him in your team for the longer term. So I have to choose just one. Oh, you have to choose just one. Who should I... If you have to choose one to start out of that lot, I probably would just go to Chamberlain, probably, because I know he starts. But otherwise, if you want a real upside pick, because of Grealish's performance, I probably would start Grealish. Reece James is the new Wilfred Zaha. Yes, Reece James is the biggest troll going in FPL. It is confirmed. Kepa in goal. Yeah, I saw Bueno only play 55 minutes, so he's a min's risk, so I'll probably transfer Shaw. Yeah. Dom, if I was in your position, because you've got a Chelsea coverage, I probably would go for Luke Shaw. The fixtures coming up for them are decent. Man United, just to confirm, have Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, and a potential double game week in game week 20. I think that's enough of a reason for you to go for Luke Shaw as your pick. So yeah, I'm happy for you to do that move, and hopefully it does pay off for you there. Just a reminder, guys, we have 10 minutes until the deadline, so make sure you are locking in your teams if you haven't already. If you have any more last minute questions, make sure you do get them in and don't ask them 1 minute before the deadline, because as we know, last week the site did crash, which really did impact quite a lot of people. So make sure you're not one of those that is leaving it until the very, very last minute. Just to remind you, my team reveal, guys, going into game week 18, this is confirmed, and captaincy on Haaland, rolling the free transfer, Reece James on my third bench, and I will be looking to do my 2 free transfers in game week 19, where hopefully we get a bit more information on certain players. Of course, not having a Man City midfielder could be the big factor here, and whether it does lead to a green arrow or a red arrow, I think that's going to be the real difference. Man United, in regards to coverage, I don't think is going to be too bad right now. The great thing as well, guys, which is worth noting, you can download the FPL Plus Google Chrome extension to sync up with your FPL team on your site. The best thing about it, you can check out so many awesome additions. So I can check and click Nemesis team, and it tells me the players that are going to impact my rank. So for me personally, Nick Pope clean sheet is a bad one for me, because a lot of people have double up in Newcastle defence. Saliba, big problem for me, because he's 37.9% owned, effective ownership. Kevin De Bruyne, 51% ownership, and Harry Kane. So basically, probably going to apply to a lot if you don't own him. De Bruyne, Kane, and Nick Pope are going to be real killers in your rank if they do return big this game week. FPL Invincible, do you think it is worth selling KDB to Salah? I know it's only for 1 week, but I think Salah has the better next 2 fixtures, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pep... So my thought process is a very firm no on doing this. Now, if you're sat there right now and you are in a position where you think to yourself, Salah's going to go big, going to get a hat-trick, and you're really worried about most Kevin De Bruyne's minutes, then I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. But for me, I think a home fixture against Everton, who have conceded the most shots, some of the most big chances of any team away from home, I think there's potential for Kevin De Bruyne in this fixture. From the eye test, I actually thought he operated quite high up the pitch. Could his minutes get rotated? Absolutely, that could happen. But I think that's the risk you take with Kevin De Bruyne. And personally, I would not be making that move. I think free transfers are very important. I personally think Kevin De Bruyne starts this game week. I would not be surprised if he racks up some decent points. So because of that, I'm going to say no. I would not do that sideways move. Harry Robinson, Captain Haaland or Nunez? I'm going to say Haaland. He's best on the projected points. I think he has the better fixture. And he's going to be massively owned. So if you go against Haaland and he does well and your player that you're choosing doesn't, it's going to really hinder your rank. And right now, I just don't think we need to go against Haaland. I think you just stick with the pack, go for Haaland captaincy and allow your other players in your team to be the thing that is your differential against the rest of the teams. Is Bruno Guimaraes a better choice than Grealish or Chamberlain? I actually think he is. I think his game time's guaranteed. I think he's operating quite well as an FPL option, although I don't think he is like a desperate transfer for any team. I think Almiron is by far a better pick, and he's got a great fixture at home against Leeds. So funny enough, I think I would choose Bruno Guimaraes over both Grealish and Chamberlain. Guys, 5 minutes until the deadline, so make sure those teams are getting locked in and you are not going to be missing the deadline this week at all. As you can see my team on the screen there, so you have that fully aware. I'm rolling my free transfer, keeping Reece James in the team, but of course he is going to be on my bench with a transfer out in game week 19, so we do not miss that one. Just checking online, guys, to see if there's any more information in regards to any team news, but I don't think there is. I think everything that we know right now is what we're kind of going to be stuck with between now and the deadline. Just checking. Can't see anything here, guys, so I think the information that we have right now is what we're going to be running with. Yeah, I think all the information, team news, guys, is what we have right now in the Twitter community. So kind of what you are seeing is what we are getting. So 5 minutes till the deadline. Any last questions, please do put them in. I really don't want you to be missing out on the deadline this time round. Devon Morgan saying, my front three is Tony, Haaland and Martial. Should I change it? By the way, love the content. Thank you very much, Devon, for tuning in. Of that front three, yes, there are more optimal players out there like Darwin Núñez, for example, but I think there's way more value in you rolling your free transfer. And then what you can do is be in a position to have 2 free transfers. Let's say Martial gets injured. You have the 2 free transfers and flexibility available to maybe do to Mitrovic. I'm not as worried about the Wolves away fixture as some others are. If you're sat there right now thinking, oh, I just hate Martial with that fixture, a sideways move to Mitrovic makes sense. But with Tony, for example, and Brentford's fixtures coming up, just so I can check them out and read them out to you. Brentford's fixtures are as follows. West Ham away, Liverpool, and then they have an amazing run of Bournemouth, Leeds and Southampton. So I don't think you need to rush out Tony either. And we've seen that he can perform against any team. So I like the players that you have. I would stick with them personally. I don't think it needs a free transfer in your team. Luke saying I'm going to go with Andreas over Trossard this week. Luke, I don't think that's a bad move at all. As I mentioned, I think a player like Trossard, we need to understand, can perform against any team. He's historically done it. So almost when you select him as an option and you bench him, you just kind of put your hands up and accept that what will be with Trossard. He's playing in a good team and he could rack up the points, but playing against an Arsenal defence that is the best away defence in the league, I don't mind you going for Andreas Pereira, who's accumulated a good expected goals involvement in game week 17. He's going to be on set pieces against the Southampton team, who are a little bit unknown right now with the new manager, but I like the decision that you've gone for. Just remember, the outcome is what it's going to be with Trossard, and unfortunately, he is quite an unpredictable FPL option, so if he does pick up a brace, you just got to put your hands up and say, it is what it is with Trossard. Thank you very much. Last question, Joel Linton or Bruno Guimaraes? I'm going to say Bruno Guimaraes, the 2. I think Joel Linton is a good option, but if I just quickly put up the stats a minute, you won't be able to see these, but you will be able to hear what I say, which will be just as good. And if we're just focusing on Newcastle as a team, based on the 2, expected FPL points, Joel Linton is at 3.77 expected FPL points. Bruno Guimaraes is at 3.67. So, per 90 minutes, the XG is better with Joel Linton. The expected assists is better with Bruno. I'm probably just going to favour Bruno Guimaraes over Joel Linton. He's slightly cheaper. Havertz or Wilson? I'm going to have to say Havertz right now. Main reason being, it depends. If you're selling Wilson, then it's a slightly different topic. If you're looking to buy one of these, the answer is going to be Havertz here. I thought he was very impressive in his Game Week 17 fixture. He has a double game week. He has good fixtures. I think he's the number 1 forward at Chelsea. My answer will be Havertz there. Guys, we have 1 minute until the deadline, so please make sure that your teams are locked in and you're not worrying about it, because we have, 45 seconds. So make sure the teams are locked in. I'm just going to check mine now. So I do apologise if I missed any questions, because we need to make sure, from a selfish perspective, that I am all good to go. So Kepa in goal, Trippier, White and Cancelo as a back 3. Salah, Almiron, Rashford and Martinelli as a 4. Martial, Nunes and Haaland captaincy, with Ward, Andreas Pereira, Patterson and James on the bench. Team is locked in. More than happy with that team there, guys. And what I am going to do is say that is going to be the end of the live stream there, because if I am answering questions now, you're not going to have enough time to confirm your team. So make sure you are locked in, guys, and you're not missing that deadline. I'm going to be your cheerleader to tell you not to make any more transfers, because I believe that is it now. I'm just going to refresh the site, and that is, I believe, time. So we have done everything we can, guys. That is the deadline. I really hope you've enjoyed this stream. If you did enjoy it on your way out, it'd be fantastic if you could drop a like just to show that it did provide some value to you. And if you haven't already, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We have plenty of content coming out between now and the end of the season. So hopefully, if you've subscribed already and you enjoy the content, it'd be awesome if you could just share the love and drop a like on the live stream. And just leaves me to say, have a great game week. We'll be back with a live stream on Monday at 3 p.m. going up until the deadline of game week 19. So make sure you stick around for that one. Again, you could probably tell if you're new around here, there's a bit more of a quieter live stream as opposed to some of the big accounts, but hopefully it kind of pays you back in the loyalty that you're showing, with some detailed answers into the specific questions that you're asking in the chat. I personally would prefer that, and hopefully you do prefer that as well. So really great that you guys have been tuned into this one. Great to see some new faces. Luke, no problem at all. Hopefully see you on Monday's live stream as well. Make sure you guys check out the free trial as well. Link is in the bio. Real good opportunity to kind of get some more information on fantasy football. Have a great game week, guys, and I'll see you in the next stream. Take care. Cheers.